Hello, hello there, Team Explorers. Welcome to this week's episode of the Hotspot Show. And your ride to a full round of experience has just arrived. Today, we are catching trains, and of course, we are catching a little feelings here and there of excitement as we explore this one-of-a-kind destination. Team Explorers, this is the Kenya Railway Museum, the only one existing in East and Central Africa. As to when and how it opened up this space to such an amazing spot for you to adventure is for you to find out. Stick around for the next 30 minutes because this and much more is in for us to explore. So make sure you onboard this train because we do not want to leave anyone along the station. Tag along. I'm excited. I'm Yusta Segate, your host of the day. See you. Oh yeah, I see you. You've crossed over to this other side with me where I was joining Mr. Chariot because you know how we do it on this show. We definitely have to explore this show alongside yet another adventurer. And he was just telling me history has it that this place is well connected to almost every institution that exists in Kenya and far and beyond. The experience in here is thrilling. Mr. Chariot, tell me. Today,
how are you, Yusta?
I am fine.
Pleasure
How
to
do
meet
you
you.
do?
Very welcome. We're doing well, and welcome to Kenya Railways, and welcome to the Railway Museum as we know it right now.
Asante sana.
Pleasure hosting you and your team.
Asante sana.
Pleasure.
We are excited as Team Hotspot. Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
you know we definitely go to so many other places, including this one,
Exactly.
to redefine the meaning of fun, adventure, and play. So let's see what we have today.
Pleasure.
Niambie, when you're coming here, did you catch a train coming over to this spot?
Not myself, but 15,000 plus passengers use our trains daily, the commuter trains daily.
On the
So
day.
I might not be standing here with one of the passengers, but I know there is 15,000 passengers came through the train today. Today is a working day, clearly. 15,000 passengers came in today. And we've been doing it for so many years now.
For so many years,
For
you're
so many
telling
years
me,
now.
but the museum was established in 1971.
Exactly.
But the existence of this railway, that's which year?
1896. That's when the construction began in Mombasa. It used to be called Mombasa, but it's in Mombasa in 1896. And of course, the history is well written all over.
Yes.
We arrived in Kisumu, Port Florence at that time in 1901. So the history of railways is clearly more than 100 plus years. I think over 120 years plus.
Yes.
And we have a rich heritage to celebrate. And we proud ourselves as Kenya Railways to have been part and parcel of the birthing of this nation. So yes.
I do agree. And it being called Kenya-Uganda Railways,
Yes.
I can only imagine the borders and to what extension, you know, the history has channeled to, you know, these different areas.
Exactly. Initially, it was actually called Uganda Railways.
Yes.
When it was constructed in 1896 to around 1924, it was actually described as a Uganda Railways. So the entire Uganda Railways, or the Uganda territory, actually began in Naivasha. And it was actually handed over to Kenya in 1921 when Kenya became a colony. So in the initial history of the railway line is that it was actually defined as Uganda Railways to 1924. Then subsequently from 24 to around 1948, it transitioned to Kenya-Uganda Railways.
Okay.
Because now Kenya became a colony at that time under the British Protectorate. 1948 to around 1967 or 8 or thereabouts, it was now called the East Africa Railways and Harbours, where it was merged between the ports and the port authorities and the ports in Dar es Salaam and in Mombasa. Then again, the separation occurred in 67 to 78, then it was now referred to as the East African Railways. Then in 1971, of course, that's when we created this facility because we noted that we are beginning to lose a lot of the artifacts. Again, in the 70s, the transition of moving cargo by rail was moving away from the steam locomotives that you are seeing here right now into diesel or locomotives that we still have up to today.
Okay.
So we decided to find a way of preserving these artifacts, and that's why when you were outside here, you realize that there are a lot of these locomotives are actually what we're carrying as the steam locomotives, and that's what used to power trains at that time.
Impressive.
So,
how I wish I was existing during this time to just actually see how these trains would move.
Yes.
But I like the fact that all over the Kenyan history and stuff like that, we have this on paper and now physically, because this is such a hotspot. I kid you not, whenever you're passing just along this Haile Selassie, I definitely have to peep my head, you know, just I have to peep. And I like the fact that you've actually opened it up to the public.
Yes.
We come here to do events, to do exhibitions and what have you.
Yes.
Impressive.
Yes.
Now, I want to know, how many trains do you have in store here for people to explore?
So what you are referring as the rolling stock is anything that you see on rails here, are classified into two. So we have the locomotives, the steam locomotives that you see here, and now the coaches. The locomotive that you are seeing here are in more than 10. If you do a count, when you do a round account, you realize there are more than 10. But we still have another stock of these old locomotives that are still in our central workshops. So the numbers can actually be more than what we have right now here. The coaches are now what you are seeing here. There are two types of coaches. We have the goods coaches for carrying cargo, and you have the coaches for passengers. And all these are vintage. They are no longer in use, but we preserve them so that people can see how people used to travel across the East Africa at that time.
What a beauty. I'm just wondering, maybe the holding capacity of some of those old locomotives, how many people could it carry?
Now, a steam locomotive, what you're referring as the mainline locomotives, the one that you move passengers and goods from Mombasa to Nairobi, what you're referring as the 59 class locomotives. Those ones can even move 1,200 tons gross. So meaning that a whole 20 coach train can actually be hauled by a single locomotive at that time. A coach can carry around, depending on the classes, you can see, previously we used to segregate passengers depending on how much they are paid as per the classes. So we had the first class, we have the second class, and we have the third class. Nowadays we call it the economy class. So more than 1,000 people can actually be moved on a single journey by a single train. And they used to do it overnight from Mombasa to Nairobi. Yeah, so the schedule for the train was departing at 7 in the evening, arriving at 7 the next day in the morning in Nairobi. And these trains would used to cross. So Mombasa train will arrive in Nairobi the next day, and the Mombasa train will arrive in opposite direction equally the next day. So it's quite a number of people can be accommodated.
I can only imagine. It was quite the journey. I mean, if you leave this era and you managed to catch one of these trains, tell us how your experience was, because sharing that history would definitely mean something. Now, I want to know, which one of these is the oldest of them all?
The oldest of the locomotives we have a locomotive here, 29 class. I don't know if you can see it here.
This one
here, 29, 21.
The one that is right behind me.
Yes. So the steam locomotives also came into two variants. There is one that used fire coal. Basically, you light the fire to heat the water. To generate the steam. The steam now drive the dynamics and move the train. So this is a boiler. It's called a boiler, and when it was functioning, this was purely it was water. It was just rides on water. Yes, you heat water, steam turns the turbines, and now that's why it was. Yes, exactly. Then subsequent to that, there was also a transition of the locomotives. Now they are using what you call industrial diesel oil. So they are now using furnace oil. So those two types of locomotives are actually available here on showcase. But the 2921 will be a very old locomotive. It has been here. It used to operate all the way in the 1930s.
What?
Yes, they stopped in the 1950s, but these locomotives used to operate running here as we speak in those years. That's almost 100 years, 90-something years ago. So that's how old these locomotives are.
What?
I wonder how old you are yourself. You have to multiply that by
quite a number of figures for me to, get that excited. Now, I'm curious to know, of time and weather. It's such a important factor when it comes to preserving some of these things. Then, so how do you ensure they are still in shape, they don't wear out despite it living for years?
Yes. We have a two-pronged approach. Number one, we still have a maintenance crew within the office of the museum curator, who does the maintenance of these locomotives, and they do the cleaning. But I can tell you, the kind of structure these locomotives were built on were meant to last. So you can imagine these locomotives were meant to last, and you can see, the only thing you can see here is just some paintworks, and that's it. But the locomotives literally are still intact for those many years that have been here for so many years.
All this gold?
All this gold,
I
agree, completely.
Impressive.
Yes.
I know part 2 of the show, guys, we're moving on the inside.
Yes.
There's a huge significance as to why we have to preserve this space.
Exactly.
What's the reason?
So the museum is it is a classroom for historians and all other students, not necessarily even historians, even people who come to know about the dynamics of rail, the signaling system. There's something called the signaling systems, how trains are controlled from one station to another station. The engineers want to see the dynamics of a locomotive and how they work. So this museum, because actually, is just a classroom. And it's also a preservator of the history of this country. We receive very prestigious clients, people who have history, their parents were railway people, and so the museum actually stands as a heritage, and it preserves that heritage. And it was, of course, when you go in, you realize that we are also showcasing the latest that we have. Now we have the SGR. You realize the concept that brought about the SGR, the current trains and the dummies and the models for SGR trains and etc. So it is a walk through history for Kenya. And I mentioned to you that all the major towns in Kenya were actually brought about by the railways. And you'll see the photos when you go inside and how those stations, even Nairobi, and even the upper hill, the one you'll see right now, how it was an outpost. At that time, there was nothing, literally nothing. Impressive. And you'll see how this place has been and how we have shaped it all the way.
Impressive. Yes. I like that. So yeah, from one trend to the other. Let's see how this goes. So we are going to take a short commercial break, but when we are back, meet you on the inside. Do not press that dial. See you in a jiffy. Hey there, Team Explorers. Glad you're still tuned in to KTN. This is the Hotspot Show with me, Eustace Segeta. The journey still continues, and I hope you are enjoying your ride so far, because Mr. Cheriot tells me probably one of those trains that you traveled with in the olden days were named after a mountain or a valley or a river, because that is exactly how they used to name the trains at that time.
Very true. That's very true. So one of the reasons why they do that is to ensure that the railways endears itself to the peoples of the East Africa.
Yes.
So that's why they will name it the Nandi, Karamoja, and the mountains.
Longonot and what have you.
So that they reflect onto the journey. I'm sure you are aware about the Roger Whittaker song.
Yes, I am.
Nandi?
Yes. You want to drop a jump?
No.
dance.
So what inspired that song is the journey through the East Africa. What makes this rail also very interesting is the Rift Valley. Most people don't realize how Kenya is beautiful thanks to the Rift Valley.
It is absolutely, yes, and you remember in one of our episodes, we've actually toured the Rift Valley, and it was beautifully captured, and you can never get tired of that scene.
Exactly. So that's the reason why a very rich history of rail exists in this room now, where we have artifacts. Majority of it exists in photography, and you can see it here, and models of locomotives that we used to operate at that time. And the photography was informed by the beauty of this country. I'm sure your audience needs to know that this country is very beautiful.
Super.
Yeah, when you visit other countries, you realize that this country is very beautiful. So that's why we have a lot of photography here to showcase how the railway journey is that time, and even up to today. Yes. And
they were very intentional, I think, to pass the railway lines across those escarpments and the valleys, where you just soak in the beauty, making the journey even more exciting, because I am wondering if they had set the railway somewhere else,
actually,
it would be as interesting.
The matter was because at that time the technology was not available to do the modern ways of constructing rail, like now the SGR. the tunnels on the SGR to Naivasha is we have a 4-kilometer tunnel, the longest tunnel in Africa on the SGR. The construction of the railway at that time needed to meander to look for gradient and gravities and whatever.
A lot of science involved.
And because out of that, naturally, became a beautiful scenery altogether.
There you go, and history is written all over. Now, you were also telling me something in regards to how they would number these locomotives. 59, 27 would mean class 59, but the 27 is the number of?
The number of locomotives that is assigned to that time. So it's a unique identifier for locomotives.
Yes.
So locomotives are identified by 2 ways. We have the class number, which is now in this case, for example, this is the biggest steam locomotive you're operating at that time. This is a 59 class locomotive, and it was number 27 of the 59 class locomotives. So we also have a 57 class locomotives on this end, and this was a 5701, meaning it was a 57 class of locomotive, and it was numbered 1 at that time, and we still do that even up to today. Even in the 90s, we brought in new locomotives for the MGR. They are called 94 class locomotives, and the 9401 is actually deemed Nyayo.
Oh.
Because at that time it was a celebration of the Nyayo era during the Moi regime.
I see.
So yes. So we number locomotives based on the class and the unique identifier for each of the locomotives, yes.
Okay, perfect to note. Besides locomotive, there is so much that I see ahead of me, including beautiful seats over there.
Yes.
What story do the seats carry?
So if you look right far above us, you'll see that there are two. There is one, there's something called Uganda Railways, Mombasa Railway, URMCA number 1, initial number 1. Yeah. That was actually a push trolley. A push trolley was actually used to push on the line. So when we did not have a powered locomotives, we used to have men push inspectors or even dignitaries along the railway line, and it used to happen, yes. So that was one of them. Then on the other side, we have seats. I don't know whether we'll see it.
Yes, definitely. What about the seats?
So the seats was actually the official seating for Her Majesty the Queen when she visited Kenya. Okay. Yeah, so those are the seats that she actually seated. She sat on when the train was maneuvering between here and Thika in 1982 or 83 or thereabouts. All right. Yeah.
And the other seat that I'm seeing to the left?
So the same also applies. It's called a push trolley again. So what will happen is that people will sit on top of it. Inspectors, local engineers, civil engineers, they will sit on it. And now gangmen, the people who are called gangmen, will push them on the line. So when they're doing line inspections, for example, there are incidences, or they want to make sure that the line is up to date, is well maintained, the inspection used to happen physically, and they used to be pushed from one station to another station. So sometimes they would even come up to 30, 40 kilometers in one day. Yes, that's how fast they used to do. Yes.
Okay, I see. Yeah. Also, I see ahead of me a certain clocks.
Yes.
Are they of any significance?
Yes. I know, apart from probably the military, one of the companies that is really obsessed with time is the railways.
I bet.
Railways is making sure that we're always on time. So we used to buy, at that time we used to install, actually have all the stations installed with station clocks. And they used to be chimed. Chimed means that they need to be timed to make sure that they're accurate. So that when we talk about a train departing Nairobi at we used to have a 24-hour system. We never, this idea of say 4 in the afternoon, we used to say 1600 hours.
It had to be like 24 hours.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
So when the train is timed to depart at 16:27, yes, then it departs at 16:27, and the station master and everybody else used to be aligned to make sure that time is correct. So railway has a lot of history with time, and timepieces like these ones have existed for over 100 years. So they are
so much old. So that you guys recently mliniacha na SGR, mtanisaidia aje because I didn't keep time.
Jamu ni yako.
Hiyo ilishapitwa na wakati, and here we are, but I keep time. That is what you know, Mr. Cheriot is saying. Now, besides all that, I also see a few things here and there. Probably I'm an amateur and I'm learning from you. What are the tools or what are the things we are seeing there, and of what significance are they?
When a visitor walks in here, they live with a rich of history. We have hundreds, and I'm sure you can see from here, they have hundreds and hundreds of items that showcase the history of rail. It cannot be captured in a half-an-hour clip. but of great
We are here to
significance.
summarize the tour.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
And we are asking our clients, your audience, to visit the rail. Among the things that will be very interesting to see will be the emblems, the logos for Kenya Railways, and how we have transitioned it all the way from the East Africa Railways. You'll find it here. When it was under the Her Majesty the Queen, you can see the Tanganyika, the Tanzania or Tanganyika Railways, our headquarters, the building that was built way back in 1932.
All right.
All of these things you'll find it here. You'll find the signaling systems that have been here, how we used to signal trains, the lighting. You can see the station lamps and the station names. You can see it in Kisumu. All of these are of significant values, and we are preserving them so people can see how it used to happen at that time.
Impressive. Yes. You've not talked about the maps and the different routes that I'm seeing on charts across the walls.
Yes. Now the maps are showcased within.
What is ahead of you?
There. We have the maps and even the photographies of how the railways was actually documented to pass through each of the escarpments from Mombasa all the way to Makindu, to Nairobi here, to Limuru, to Naivasha, all the way to Kisumu. So all those maps are available. Majority of them are still on display on our far end, and the photography of the construction of the railway line itself still exists.
It's still
and all those photography are actually showcased here, so people can impress and learn more about it.
All right, yeah. I see that. Finally, as we finish, the founder of this museum, is called George Mack.
Yes.
When did he actually decide that I'm going to set up a museum, or is that also part of the history that has been captured in, the overall history of this museum?
So the spirit behind a museum was brought earlier than 71, but what really progressed and hastened the process is the transition of the locomotives from the steam power to the diesel electric locomotives. That was now the agency was brought about that we now need to preserve this, because now these locomotives cannot be allowed to stay out in the workshops and we need to display this because now the world has transitioned. So he brought about it by making sure that he can collect as many artifacts. A majority of the artifacts actually came from him, but he was also through his friends and his contacts and other national offices. Even the British also gave us a lot of donations because they still had a lot of artifacts at the British Museum. So the idea was brought about by the need to ensure that we need to preserve these artifacts for people like yourself and myself to enjoy and actually use this and actually showcase what the history of this country is all about. Not
a better way to end this show, because we like it. Allow us to cut our train off this show, because we also have other places to explore. But for today, that has been it. We truly appreciate your company. It's been amazing, and I've loved every journey.
Pleasure.
See you next weekend. My name is Yusa Segete. From me and the amazing entire crew, we do appreciate you. And remember to always explore the world around you. See you next week, but at different hotspots.